It's a really profound paradox if you know Ridley Scott's work that even diehard fans of his know him from Alien, Gladiator, and other classic films, and he's done so many things, Blade Runner, and so on and so forth. But even those who know his fascination with fantasy have often forgotten his work with Legend, a really great 1980s fantasy film starring Tom Cruise and Tim Curry. Yes, that Tim Curry. Tim Curry, the incredible voice of Tim Curry as he plays an evil, malevolent force. It's a very hard film to describe, even being non spoilerish, because it basically takes a very simple fairy tale premise and plot about how the unicorns in this fictional universe represent sort of all goodness and innocence, and that they're accidentally hurt by a beautiful princess, and the Tom Cruise character is basically tasked with reversing the effects of this. This is an incredible, really thrilling visual experience and a very clever commentary on so many things. It's not even clear where to begin. First, of course, are the performances, which, when added to the costumes, the makeup, and special effects, are astonishing. And if you know the behind the scenes trouble that this thing had, this is an incredible film because you never sense for a minute that they had any trouble in getting this thing to us, but it has four different versions. So the version I may be praising may be a little strong, and if you see it, then you're like, well, I don't quite get it. I saw the sad version, basically the one with an unhappy ending, which I thought was very strong and powerful, but you may prefer the happy ending version. But that's neither here nor there. So Tim Curry plays this kind of very devil-like creature who tries to seduce the princess. And a lot of the film is whether the princess will give in or not. And of course, it's a fairy tale, so we know which side will probably win. But I think, again, Tim Curry provides such a magnetic performance, and you are partially seduced by his logic when he says, we're all animals, and things like that. It gives us such a power to these otherwise cliche lines that it's a really, really strong piece. I mean, it's just such a beautiful picture in so many levels because we're not just getting the simple idyllic setting of fantasy world. We really see the world go through these various changes when it goes from this nice bright summer to this cold harsh winter, and it's visualized so stunningly and powerful. And if you see the version with deleted scenes, you'll see just how devastating the winter is. And I mean, it's just really a good job of showing just how powerfully and radically the world changes. It does have certain cliches and tropes that it indulges in a little bit too much. There's, for instance, a fairy creature that falls in love with the Tom Cruise character, and she becomes sexually jealous. She doesn't want to help, and things like that, so on and so forth. So, yes, in terms of its sources, it's very derivative. It's borrowing a lot, obviously, from Peter Pan, King Arthur. It's not trying to be innovative or creative at that end. So I can see why people have sort of forgotten this in contrast to Alien, which at least tried to be much more innovative. Nevertheless, even though this is well-trodden paths, he's very passionate about this. If you know Ridley Scott's career, he was always been fascinated by medieval history, lore, and romance. And he's always wanted to do these kinds of stories, but he was just always prevented to because, ironically, his success in the, quote, science fiction genre has sort of made him less, I guess, amenable to fantasy fans. But if you're patient with this really works on so many levels, and beyond its beauty and the good performances, and of course Tim Curry's voice as the quote lead villain is so entertaining and charming and really fulfilling. But added to this, and again, remember there are different versions. There's such powerful music, but it'll depend on your taste. I like the Goldsmith version, which has a kind of traditional movie score, but there's also the Tangerine Dream version, and people may prefer that and find that a little bit more exciting. So again, this thing is going to be very particular in terms of your taste, in terms of how dark you want it to be. If you want the happy ending version, you can get that. If you want the one with the normal original score, you can go with that, or the one with the Tangerine Dream version, you can select that one. So it's an interesting movie that you want to be curious enough to go through the various different versions because they are slightly different. And again, like I said, I prefer the unhappy version in terms of where the characters end up because it felt much more realistic. It has a kind of very ironic ending, which I really, really preferred. But others may prefer a much more straightforward happy ending. Whatever the case, whatever version you're going to see, you're still going to see the core of a really dazzling set of metaphors, that the way Ridley Scott just visualizes everything. So even though the story is actually pretty small, right? It's just that the seduction and then the unicorn is captured and so on and so forth. He just does so much that when the twists happen, even though you can see a lot of them coming, they're still very emotive. I just can't say enough good things about this. It's just really, really sad that so many fantasy fans have sort of forgotten this, and it's a really great treasure. There's just so many particular scenes I could just go on and on about how they're well directed, they're well acted, they're well framed, it's well photographed. It's just an amazingly beautiful picture and very absorbing. And you can just go back to the scenes over and over again. And so I can't recommend this highly enough. But I want to be even handed. This may not work for everybody because, again, it is a very traditional plot. It does have a very slow pace, so that may be a little frustrating because there's not much going to be going on in terms of something radical or unexpected. So it may be a little slow pace for some people. I'm giving this a 7.5 and recommending it very highly. Legend by Ridley Scott, a real treasure trove of enjoyable scenes, enjoyable images. I highly recommend seeking this one out. But again, one version may not be to your liking, so you may want to try some of the other versions to see which one fits your taste the best. All right, thanks for listening.